Welcome to Perspective Podcast. Josue here. As you guys already know, I'm a fellow believer from the Democratic Republic of Congo. I attended the Oral Roberts University, and I preach at times, but we're not really here to talk about that. And to my left, we have Mr. Chase Brown himself. He was born in Texas, from what I hear. He attended the University of North Texas. He's an aspiring philanthropic creative, and it is September 19th, 2021, and he still loves very long walks on the beach. Why that is, I'm not sure, but I'm hoping we get into that today. Chase Brown, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man.
Yeah.
You know the one thing that would make me better?
What?
Is if you remembered the date.
It's not the 19th of September?
It's, what is that? It's the 20th? 20th? That's okay. That's okay. We all...
How would they know?
We all have our mistakes.
Yeah.
We got to be honest. We got to be people of honor,
Yesterday
integrity.
was the 19th.
Yeah. And now it's 20th. But nah, doing really good. Yeah, just happy to be out here in Atlanta again.
Yeah.
Be able to see all the friends and hang out, and then head back home later today. And get some good work in over the next month or so. But how have you been, bro?
I'm good. Still trying to figure out the dates and stuff, but hopefully throughout the day I'll be able to kind of get into that a little bit better. But as you guys already know, whenever we try to have podcasts, we try to bring on special guests. And today we really had to search far, and I don't know how that expression goes when you're really searching really hard to.
I have no idea what
Yeah, I
you're
know
saying.
what I'm talking about. Anyways, so we really had to search for our guests for today, and and so our sponsors gave us something to read, and so I will be reading. Yeah. So our guest for today is a 4-time Nigerian Artist of the Year. That's really impressive. She's a Longhorn alum, and for those of you guys that don't know, that's UT.
Hookem?
Yeah. UT. So wait, what does it mean when like the things like this?
I don't even
We'll get into that later. We'll get into that later.
That means the people who are doing that, it's trash.
That's disrespect. She's a recording artist as well as a reach record artist. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a hand. Let's give a hand to our guest today. We have Wande in the building. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are y'all?
We're good.
Doing well.
Yeah, you seem a lot more relaxed now, which is good.
Oh yeah, I'll be chilling.
Yeah, before I was just kind of like observing us a little bit, trying to see what's going on. But you're good now.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to our studio, where we record. Where I'm gonna be releasing my album soon.
Anytime.
Anytime,
man.
Yeah.
Goodness. Well, thanks for taking the time. We really appreciate
It's a pleasure. Definitely love having conversations with people and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, the first thing we want to get into is whenever we met about a month ago, we were hanging here at this office with Chaz, of course, Chaz Smith, dope dude. We were talking a little bit about pretty much like creativity and like our creative process and figuring out kind of what works for each of us and just tossing around different ideas, and then also just like our vision for our creativity to kind of ground in and make sure that everything that we're doing is kind of consistent with what we think our long-term goal is. And you were talking a little bit just how, you were working on that a little bit, figuring it out, and continuing just to kind of see how you can honor the Lord in that. So what's that kind of look like over the last couple months, and what do you think your vision is?
Yeah, so for me, it's actually been a month of refinement, and so, or a season of refinement, actually. And so it's been a lot of fun, actually, just being able to figure out, like, God, like, what is the vision for this next season? Because I think just over time, sometimes things evolve for what God is calling you to do. Like, for this chapter, he might be calling you to do this, and then it might be like, okay, we're closing that chapter, and it's time to move on to something else. So for me, like, it just kind of looks like spending time with the Lord and, like, literally asking, like, God, like, what do you want me to do? And sometimes it's not an immediate answer. Sometimes you just have to serve during the process. And as you're serving and continue to love God and live life, just over time, like, he'll speak to you and he'll give you an answer. And so for me, I think it was a couple months, though, of not hearing an answer. And I was like, bruh, like, I don't know. And so, but he finally gave me an answer, which I'm super excited about. And so, like, my new motto for, like, moving forward is win within. And so, like, basically, it's also my brand as well. And so with that, God has been showing me, like, just to empower other people to remember, like, all these material possessions and accomplishments outside in the world that people are trying to say, like, that's how you are successful, or, like, that's the goal. Like, remember, like, that's actually not the goal. Like, the goal is actually within you. And so if you're not actually having a relationship with God, if you're not winning in that area, in that arena, then, like, everything else is irrelevant. And he's also just been showing me, too, just, like, that can also just be in your interpersonal relationships. So one thing I've learned, just because I'm an artist, I interact with like hundreds of thousands of people all the time who like are battling for my attention. Like God has showed me the importance of just the people he's placed in your life, in your inner circle. And so God has also been showing me just like when within that circle, within your inner circle as well. Because like even if you look at Jesus, right? Jesus literally could have talked to anybody he wanted, and there was thousands of people around whenever he was alive walking on earth. But he had his 12 disciples, and he had his people who he was also called to intentionally pour into, or people who he intentionally was like, okay, this is the person I'm healing today. And so he's just kind of been teaching me as well, just discernment within like focusing on him, and then also focusing on like who are the people who he's placed in my life, and like how can I win in that area, make sure they feel supported and make sure they feel loved and everything.
Yeah, man, I think that's a phenomenal answer. And I think something that you said that kind of stood out to me was about just being an artist and having whether it's hundreds or even thousands of people trying to get your attention and all of that. I know that's something that can cause a lot of maybe even stress to certain people, and seeing that you are a believer. How do you go about managing that? Managing those relationships to some kind of degree, as well as having those tight-knit ones that you do.
Yeah. So I think luckily I've been able to read people's like integrity for the most part. So that helps out with like the wide net. But for the internet, like, or that's funny, internet, but for the internet of just people like always calling for my attention, the biggest thing I've done is like actually create structure in my life. So I actually, because the artist life, a lot of people are like, oh, stay up all night, write songs from
Grinding
midnight.
all the time.
Yeah, but then I realized, if you actually look at God and like how he lives his life, like that's not necessarily a reflection of that. And so I've been trying to deconstruct like everything that the world teaches you is like, that's how you grind, that's how you win. And realizing like I'm in a season of almost like doing the least per se, like, because God, like he had a Sabbath day. He's like, I'm not working on that day. So for me, I'm managing all these people coming at me by like, okay, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, I'm working. So if a million people are hitting me up after 5, I can look back at my messages and try to respond versus like ding, 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 and like trying to work. Oh, wait, let me respond to this person. Trying to work. Oh, wait. And then I'm like literally never getting any work done because I'm just trying to please everybody and respond to everybody. And then 2, prioritizing like my family, because it's like, okay, if the world loves you but then your family hates you, then it's like, what are you doing? And so making sure I prioritize my family and that immediate group that God's placed in my life, like the people who work with me every day, stuff like that, making sure I'm supporting them, pulling up for them, talking to them, and not just being like, oh, I'll talk to them later because my fans need love. Like making sure like, no, my fam needs love first before fans and stuff like that. And then just kind of having grace in the areas outside of that. So like at shows, like if I see people and they run up to me, like I try to like still make people feel acknowledged and take pictures. But like also if we have to work, like it was like, hey, you're about to go on stage in 5 minutes, being like, respectfully, I'll talk to you after. And so just things like that.
Dang. Yeah, because I think sometimes, especially for those of us who are kind of like can tend to be like people pleasers, because I know I struggle with that a lot. We can feel like anytime we're saying no to someone, we're like dishonoring them in a way, when really it's just like, no, like just because we're creating healthy boundaries for ourselves doesn't mean like we're automatically just like not loving them. Like there's a balance in that, and there should be like a reciprocation of love. Like they should have patience for us in what we're doing, and in turn, like sometimes we'll need patience from them and what we're doing. And so it's super interesting, and I think it's good for you to learn that like in young adulthood, because I know that, like, for example, like talking with Tadashi a little bit earlier, is just like, more and more responsibilities should get added to your life as we continue in life. And if we don't learn that lesson whenever we're a little bit younger, then it's just going to mount up into a whole bunch of stress and a whole bunch of issues.
Yeah. I definitely say shout out to like all the older artists on Reach, because like, especially once you have kids, I'm like, I don't know how you're doing this, because I'm just like, your kids are going to want your attention. You can't just not be a dad who doesn't come home. But it's crazy because I think sometimes whenever you're in like the studio, like right now, like we're in a studio, a black room, like no windows. So sometimes the outside world, you forget about it. You get lost in the music. But it's like, if you're a parent, you can't get lost in the music. Your kids need to get picked up from school. They need somebody in their life, like a parent figure. And so even that, like that's a whole new level of like, no, I need to show up for my kids and my family. But then low-key still be involved in the industry and hang out with people, but healthy boundaries.
Yeah. I mean, speaking to the whole thing about having fans or people that may come up and want pictures or even just want to meet you, have some kind of relationship with you in that aspect. Like, what is, I wanted to ask Foggy this, but I didn't get an opportunity to, but what is that like, coming from, just being what people would consider a everyday person or whatever.
Modest background, yeah.
Your modest background to now, all of a sudden people want pictures with you. They want to talk to you all the time. Like, what is that like?
Yeah, I think, it's kind of wild. But luckily, the Lord, he like created my temperament to match like what he's called me to do. So like I love people. So I'm like, oh yeah, let's take a picture. I actually like taking pictures, so no complaints.
Is that like taking pictures?
And then so like it's so funny because my team, not everybody on my team though has the same vibes. Like a lot of it's weird because I'm like low key introverted, but I'm extroverted when it comes to meeting people. But my team, like a lot of them are introverted, so like it's exhausting for them. Like, can we go? And I'm like, oh wait, but I want to make sure that person feels love. So it's an interesting balance, but also even just like from my childhood, I guess God prepared me for that in different arenas because just even in high school, like I was student council president and stuff like that. And like just different things like he's put me before where I'm used to like dealing with large groups of people who like know who I am or like hitting me up and type of stuff. Right. So yeah.
Dang. Overachiever over here.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, those are the overachievers in school, right?
So she definitely belonged at UT.
UT, yeah.
Jeez.
UT wouldn't let me in. I didn't forget about that.
Oh my God.
I never even applied, so don't worry about it.
Goodness. Awesome. And then from there, how because this is something I think I've been trying to learn over the last few months. Because we have, I think as you and I talked about, so we have the nonprofit, and then the podcast is under the nonprofit. There's a few other projects that we have going on as well that we've been working on from anywhere from 1 to 3 years. And so it's been something that as those opportunities have come up, just trying to remember what our vision and mission is to see if those opportunities kind of align with what we think we're going long term, and making sure that it's something that is an opportunity that's like of the spirit rather than of the flesh.
Yeah. And
so for you, how do you go about that whenever various opportunities come up that either are super crazy in scale or just regular opportunities that come up, of discerning whether this is something, all right, God, like this is something you've called me to do, or this is something, okay, like this might be something that sounds great to me, but isn't really in line with what you've called me to do.
Yeah. So I think one thing as humans, it's really easy to forget. It's like, go be like, yes, God, I'm going to serve you forever. And then like one day you'll catch yourself like just totally slipping. So one thing I've definitely started doing is like using my notes on iPhone, best app ever. I love that app. And so I have like a folder called like where I'm at. And so in that folder, I literally like have different notes for like what God is telling me for like a particular season. So I'm like, oh, I have one that's called vision. So I'm like, this is the vision. And so with that, then next step, I have my team with my manager, like my day-to-day manager and my like overall manager. And so with those people, we have weekly meetings and I always share like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is the vision that I feel like God is leading us for. And so like having that said out loud also just helps overall with my accountability. Like if an opportunity comes up, I'm not just being like, oh, I'm gonna just do what I want to do. But the team is like, hey, Wanda, you said this is where you're at. You said this is the vision God calls you to do. So does this even make sense, like with the whole thing? So I think it's kind of like checks and balances, It helps make sure like I'm on track with what God is telling me to do. And then ultimately just also listening to the Holy Spirit, I think that helps a lot. Because at the end of the day, I think sometimes like if God is telling you, nah, that's a selfish thing, or nah, this is for me. So
yeah, and even going to that, and you mentioned having, I mean that's also where am I at right now in vision. Is this something that you kind of envisioned for yourself? Being where you are right now, or is this something where the Lord just put you in a position?
Yeah.
Or is it something from since you were 11, you're like, I want to,
Yeah, this is definitely very unplanned. But hey, shout out God. No complaints.
Right.
Yeah, so I was envisioning becoming a doctor, being a surgeon.
As you should, being Nigerian and all
Nigerian,
that. Yeah.
But I was like, okay, I'm gonna have money, so no complaints. So like me and my cousins and siblings were just like, yeah, we're just gonna do that. Like that's the easiest route to have guaranteed like $200K a year. And so along that journey in a biology class, I had a teacher who was like, hey, if you don't want to do like a PowerPoint or a presentation about cellular transport, you can do a rap. And so I chose the rapping option. And yeah, my friends were actually very shocked, and they were like, "Hey, that was actually really good. Like, you could actually be like a rapper, maybe like educate the people on stuff."
Okay.
And I had just gotten saved about a year before that. And so with that, I was so passionate about my faith and telling people at school about my faith. And it used to be just like sitting at people's lunch tables who were sitting by themselves and talking to them. But I was like, rapping is way better. And so
Yeah.
I just started joining like freestyle circles, and I would like rap about Jesus because it had people's attention. And I was like, bet, you're going to learn about Jesus through these raps.
Yeah.
And yeah, over time, it just kind of evolved into this. And God was like, yeah, this is what I'm calling you to do. And I was like, okay. And so
Yeah.
that's how I ended up here.
Yeah, I think that's one of those like unexpected moments where the Lord places you somewhere that you weren't even expecting for yourself. Because a lot of times it's easy to look at the kids that all their lives they've always wanted to be a doctor and they already have it figured out. But sometimes God is like, "No, I'm gonna kind of navigate you to where I want you to be." So that's pretty
Yeah.
cool to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Cause yeah, I mean, I think that is similar with us, where like whenever we met, because we met in a basketball small group. I'll let you decide who was the best player here.
Hoopers.
But yeah, whenever we met, like it was something like I would have never thought about starting a podcast or even like a missions nonprofit or anything in I wouldn't have called myself a creative in general, like on it probably even like 3 years ago. And yet there's things that God's led us to that's just like, okay, like God, you like uncovered something that's kind of hidden here, and like thanks for doing that. And
Yeah.
it's crazy. And so then going from there, one of the other things we love to give, especially artists or influencers and entrepreneurs, an opportunity to talk about is their cultures, where they come from. It's something that we think a lot of times whenever they do interviews or podcasts or conversations, it's all about music, especially like if they're just releasing a new album or something like that. And so for you, are you fully Nigerian or half?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, fully Nigerian.
So you're Nigerian. So talk to us a little bit about, what it was like growing up in like Nigerian culture, and like, were you born there? Were you born over here? And kind of that story and what you enjoy from the culture.
Yeah, so I was born in Nigeria. I was the last sibling, youngest privilege. We love to see it. And then we immigrated over to the United States. And so I kind of grew up in America, but at home it was a completely different life. Definitely Nigerian culture to the max. It was honestly a lot of fun. So I also went to a Nigerian church growing up. So that was also another way to...
Nigerian church is crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Crazy.
It's definitely crazy. It's hilarious, but great. So I definitely got a lot growing up in Nigerian church as well, learning the music. A lot of people wear African attire to church. Just meeting other kids who have similar experiences as well, being Nigerian but growing up in America, or just other African aunties who also just are living in America. But yeah, it's definitely been a really fun ride being Nigerian. I would say I love the food. My parents, they don't speak to me in English. My parents speak to me in Yoruba, which is one of the languages. And so, yeah, it's like a lot of fun. I think there's like a lot that you can learn from Nigerian culture and American culture, but it's definitely been a lot of fun just growing up in this new culture.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, when you get home, you're back home in Nigeria. Like at your house, you're in Nigeria, and then you leave the house, you're in the United States again.
Yeah.
So what was that like, trying to balance? Because we, African parents, there's this expectation almost that they put on their kids because you don't want them to succeed and all that stuff. So what was that like trying to balance American culture with your friends outside, and then you get home, nobody's speaking English? So what was that like?
I think because I was a baby, whenever we immigrated, it made it easier because that's basically all I knew. It's kind of just like how my brain works. Like my mom speaks Yoruba to me, but I respond to her in English, and like my brain hears the Yoruba as English. And so like it was something I never had to think about. I just understand what she's saying. And I think also the Nigerian church thing helped a lot because I was around other kids too who had the same experience of like us being Nigerian but then American at the same time. So like I think that also helped navigate the culture. But I think a lot of Nigerians have like a lot of pride in their culture. So with that, there's pros and cons.
We know.
Pros and cons. But I think that also helped me not feel ashamed of being Nigerian whenever I went back to school and stuff like that. But it just kind of felt like a natural occurrence of like, yeah, this is just what I eat whenever I'm at home and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it's just like an interesting thing. I feel like I'm still navigating that now. Like, what does that even look like now as an adult? And like, whenever I have kids like in the future and stuff like that. And so it's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
Well, then, so question for you.
For me.
Yeah, for you. Do you think, because you immigrated over here when you were 9, that's right? Yeah. There we go. Do you think it would have been easier for you if you would have moved over when you were younger? Or, I don't know. What do you think?
I think I was young enough to where I'm from the Congo. I'm not sure if I mentioned that or not. I think I was young enough to where it was still easy for me to, assimilate into the culture. Whereas my older siblings, they were already teens and late in their teens. So
This
it was a little
dude's
bit
got
more,
11 siblings.
Yeah, 11.
Sheesh.
But that's how many y'all got?
It's only like 5 of us.
5?
But yeah.
Dang. But yeah, so it was it was a little bit easier for me anyways. Probably not for some of my siblings that didn't get to go to school here. They were kind of they were at that age where they could just start working.
Yeah.
So they weren't really around other Americans,
Kids to be able to
kids,
socialize and stuff like
in
that.
that aspect. So
Yeah, because for me, I grew up in like the Dallas area my whole life.
Yeah.
And like never, like we were in 2 houses that were maybe a mile apart, like all growing up.
Yeah.
And so it was something where I was within one context that whole time. And I always wondered like what it would have been like if like we would have just picked up and moved to like California or something like that. And I mean, luckily part of it I was able to get some perspective because growing up, my dad would work over in Paris for half the year. And so we'd go over there sometimes to go see him. And so we were exposed to different cultures, but still would have just been interesting to be like, okay, how would I have like gotten acquainted in those areas and whatnot?
Yeah.
And so from there, then what do you think are, we ask this every time we have someone, and we're talking about their culture on. What are some of the things that you think Nigerian culture has that are unique to it that American culture could learn from Nigerian culture?
Yeah, I think Nigerians have a greater sense of urgency, I guess, for the gospel and reverence per se. I think because the problems in Africa are different than American problems, a lot of times, like in Africa, like it's really like spiritual warfare over there, like and people like because over here, like. Especially because it's getting towards like October and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, Halloween. People like, I think media has made like Halloween like a joke, like, oh yeah, like witches aren't real, like it's just a blah blah blah. But in Nigeria, like people are like, no, I'm a witch, and like, or people like will literally be really upfront about it, or people in Nigeria, like if there's a thing where it's like if you want to be successful, you can go to this idol and just make a sacrifice and you will be successful. And like the Bible talks about like certain people who were like worshiping idols and like God had to like destroy like that generation because they just kept on doing that. And so I would just kind of describe it like a microwave culture in Nigeria where a lot of people actually believe in God. And so the battle over there is not like, do you believe in God or not? It's just, are you willing to wait on God or do you want your answers your way? And so because of that, there's like a lot of spiritual warfare because whenever you're doing things outside of God and getting results outside of God, like there's repercussions if you're using a power and a source that's not of God. And so I think the biggest thing over there, people are like praying like, God, like don't let my enemies put a curse on my life in order to be successful. Don't let my enemies try to kill me to like get successful or kill my kids, like, or don't let me get robbed because over there the police, like if you give them money, like then they don't care. So then over there it's like, God, don't let me get robbed or like, killed in my house. And so I think because of that, like there's a strong sense of like, God, I really need you to fight for me. Like they look at God as a warrior who like defends their battles and defends like them in times of war versus like, oh, God is love. Like I think
and all that,
yeah. So I think in terms of that could be something like Americans could learn in terms of like the aspects of God whenever you see God as a warrior, someone who fights for you, fights your battles, and like is strong and mighty. But I also think they can learn from Americans also just the loving aspect too, because I think Nigerians are very like, they're very intense people. So because they're so intense, I think some of them actually like, we're not really taught like to show our emotions and stuff like that and like affection towards people. And so I think because of that, that's why a lot of Nigerian kids also just kind of perpetuate the same stereotype over and over and over, because it's just like, just be smart, just succeed, just be the best. That's it. But like, there's no like, oh, let's like love each other. Let's spend time with each other. Let's just talk, just to talk. So I think that's one thing like Nigerians can learn from American culture, like of how to just calm down, just relax. Like it's not that serious.
Yeah.
Don't get hypertension. And so I think that's one thing like that's actually important, like to calm down sometimes. And I've been trying to teach my parents that, like, hey, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be all right. And so yeah. And then I've been also just showing like different things like family dinners, sitting around like the table. Like I've just been trying to implement like different things into like my parents' culture too, because they might be like, that's an American thing, but it's like, no, it's cool. Like we can do it. It's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
That's awesome that you are kind of bringing those things together at the house as well. And just even follow up with those questions. I usually have my own questions that I ask, to my fellow Africans, and we'll kind of see where it goes from there. So 3 questions. The first one. So this is always the hot topic of the day, being a Nigerian. So we've had Nigerian, heard people talk about Senegal, and then Ghana as well. So
I know what you're gonna ask.
you already know. See, I didn't even ask. We didn't write it down, and she already knows what I'm gonna ask. So since you already know, which one of you guys makes the best jollof?
Nigerian, hands down.
Hands down.
Hands down.
Before you say that, I'm gonna let you know what somebody said
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
They said, if the fate of the universe, if the Martians had their laser beams, they're about to kill the Earth, and they said, bring us your best jollof rice. This individual said that we will not send out Nigerian jollof.
I feel like they just haven't experienced quality cooks, like quality chefs. I think in Austin, I have some quality aunties that own like cooking businesses. That's how good it is.
Okay.
So
Just
they
quality.
went on to say that jollof from the Ghana people is the best. I'm just putting it out there. I'm some messenger.
I don't know.
You don't agree with that?
I've had some Liberian jollof rice.
I didn't even know
yeah.
Liberians had jollof.
Yeah,
rice.
it's pretty
That's
good.
crazy.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It tastes like our version of fried rice, but it's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. But I
Wow.
still think our jollof is top tier. You just have to know what you're doing.
Okay. That's fair. Hey, that's fair. Everybody
Agree.
has their own opinion. We can accept that. We'll receive it, and we'll go on to the next question.
All right.
Seeing as you are an artist, musician, and all that. So, top 5 African countries that makes hits, bops, whatever the kids are calling it nowadays. You can put it in order, or you can just give me 5. Or you
Can
just
I
put it in order.
include like general overseas, like UK type things, or just Africa?
African?
Okay. I would say Nigeria for sure.
Where you putting them?
I put them at number 1.
Okay. I'm just making sure.
I guess we're
I'm
going.
making
Guess
sure.
we're going in reverse. I put them at number 1. I just
Okay.
feel like if you even look at the top global stars like Wizkid and stuff, like they're Nigerians.
There.
Coincidentally,
Yeah.
Yoruba too, low key coincidentally. But anyway, so Nigeria at the top. South Africa has been killing the game and actually been taking over a lot of culture. So I put them at number 2. Ethiopian, they be going hard too.
Ethiopia.
Yeah,
That's a
so
first.
they be going hard.
First.
Yeah, I had a lot of Ethiopian friends in college, so
Yeah.
I saw the ways and I was like, oh
Okay.
y'all are cool, y'all cool.
Yeah.
So I'll probably put that as number 3. Then we can do like Ghana,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and then
Ghana.
Uh-huh.
yeah, and then maybe Kenya.
Okay. That's fair.
Okay. That's fine.
And last question, just for the sake of going along that same thing. So we talked about food, we talked about music, so dance is next. African countries, who got the best dancers? Top 5.
I feel like it's hard. I feel like I'm not like exposed to that much,
For sure.
so I probably would just put the same order.
The same order? Nigeria first?
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair.
Congo, shut out.
Hey, Congo, honorable mention.
Honorable mention. That's so disrespectful. That's crazy.
Nah, you gotta just
No
educate
hard
us.
feelings.
Just
No
show.
hard feelings.
Nah, educate the people though. You can like tell them what to
I'll
search
let them
for.
know.
Yeah,
I'll let them know. I'll put them on
Yeah.
as we like to say. So
Goodness. Do you have any other things? Any
No, I'm
hard
good.
hard
I'm
pressing
good.
questions?
All right.
no, I love how you call them. What did you say? The aunties.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I say that all the time. Everybody's an auntie to me. So yeah.
Goodness. Yeah. Any last things you'd like to share?
No, it's just been a pleasure to be here. I mean, if you want to keep up with me, my socials are at OMG It's Wande. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun, like just chopping up with y'all, just getting to talk about life.
Yeah. And yeah, again, we appreciate you taking the time and coming on. And yeah, getting to learn about Nigerian culture a little bit more.
For sure.
Because he's got one close friend who's Nigerian who maybe is a little bit too serious about Nigerian culture at times.
All of my Nigerian friends are serious about being Nigerian. It's crazy.
Yeah. So it was good to have a little balance there.
Yeah.
So appreciate that. And yeah, we're super excited for everything that you have coming up. Yeah, and just everything God's got in store for you. So It's going to be great. So yeah, y'all, that'll be a wrap for us today. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. We'll be putting all of Wande's information in the description below if you want to go support her music and everything that she's doing. All of our information for Perspectives will be in the description below as well if you want to support us and the outreaches and the podcast and all that. And so, Wande, thanks again.
No problem.
So until next time, much love. God bless.